Coming up on WBOC News This Morning.
It's been 15 years since America's freedom was attacked on September 11th. We tell you the story of one father whose grief is helping others learn about the tragedy. And it's a day most Americans will never forget, but for today's high school students, it was an event never truly experienced, what 9/11 means to them.
It's a humid start across Delmarva, but don't you worry, the cold front's on our doorstep and changes are on the way. We'll discuss next.
Now, WBOC News This Morning, Delmarva's news leader.
Good morning. Welcome to WBOC News This Morning. I'm Lindsay Tuckman. It's 8 a.m. on Sunday, September 11th. Here's a live look into Rehoboth Beach right now from the Boardwalk Plaza hotel camera, showing a quiet start weather-wise this morning. It's still feeling sticky outside, but there's a lot of folks already out there enjoying their morning. Let's check in with meteorologist Mike Lichniak. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Lindsay, and good morning, everybody else. Yes, the humidity's still up. A lot of cloud cover out there in places this morning, but as you look at live storm tracker radar, not much going on. Very quiet this morning. Temperatures in the 70s to around 80 degrees. There is good news, though, on the way, and you'll see that here on the satellite and radar, that the front is just to our west, and it'll pass as we go through the next several hours. So still keeping the chance of a couple showers in the forecast, at least through the first half of the day. Then the breeze will pick up and drop that humidity drastically as we go through today. We'll talk about that full forecast for the work week ahead in a few minutes.
Thank you, Mike. Today marks 15 years since the September 11th terror attacks, which killed 2,977 people. Most of the victims were at New York's World Trade Center, where hundreds of first responders rushed into the burning towers and never came out. Kenneth Craig speaks with a father who used his grief to create a powerful tribute.
This is the uniform firefighter Jonathan Ielpi was wearing when he was killed in the collapse of the Twin Towers. A 29-year-old father of two, his memory lives here at the 9/11 Tribute Center, along with other victims of the terror attack.
This is a difficult space.
This is a very difficult space.
Lee Ielpi is Jonathan's father and a retired firefighter. He spent 3 months searching Ground Zero before he found his son's remains, and then continued combing the debris for victims for another 6 months.
The best that humanity could give us was here, searching every day, 24 hours a day, hands and knees.
During that time, the damaged Liberty Deli became a gathering spot for rescue and recovery workers. Ielpi eventually turned the space into the 9/11 Tribute Center, a kind of interim museum until the official one opened in 2014. Not only did it stay open, it will move to a bigger space next spring, where it will continue to tell the story of 9/11 in the most personal terms.
When I get to talk about my son, I cry. I can't tell you how many times I've cried this week.
Pouring himself into his work has helped Ielpi move forward, but it hasn't relieved the pain.
The only thing 9/11 means to me is I have not seen my buddy in 15 years, and I miss. I have not seen my buddy in 15 years, and I miss my buddy.
The Tribute Center gave Ielpi a mission to educate, enlighten, and to understand how 9/11 not only changed his life, but the world. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
Now, many of us can look back and remember exactly where we were and what we were doing on that tragic day. But many students now in high school were not alive then, and this year they are learning about the attacks in their history class. As WBOC's Tashana Gaines reports, the students she spoke with say, although they have no memory of the attacks, it's had an overwhelming impact on their lives.
What year were you guys born?
2001. And that year, as most of us watched in horror as the World Trade Center towers collapsed, students in this 10th grade class at Salisbury Christian School were too young to know what was happening.
When I first heard about it, I was like, what's 9/11? And I asked my mom, and she said, she just told me at the time that there were some people who did some really bad things.
Kat Bounds says she first really learned about 9/11 visiting Ground Zero with her parents. She says it was an overwhelming experience.
I went around and we saw the footprints at first, the pools and stuff, and there was one thing that really hit me. It was a woman's name, and it said, and her unborn child, and It just really hit me so hard. Just because who would do something like that?
History teacher Rachel Marshall says she has one main goal.
I really want them to relate to the fact that the students, they are the same age as the kids who have lost their parents. For those souls that were lost on this day, you know, these are their parents, these are that relation. So I wanted them to make that connection first, and that way they can understand where others are coming from.
On this 15th anniversary of 9/11, these students are taking time to reflect.
It makes you really, really think and be grateful, because we are alive in such a time that we can look back and not really, we don't experience it day to day to day like some countries do.
That was Tashana Gaines reporting. She says that students in that 10th grade class say one of the most important things they'll do in remembering September 11th is to preserve the importance of that day in history by promoting awareness through learning and never forgetting. In other news, in Ocean City, Maryland State Police say a Berlin woman is in custody in connection to a car crash that shut down part of Route 50 westbound yesterday afternoon. A look into Ocean City Saturday, thanks to our friends over at the Maryland Department of Transportation. Police say Renata Lovett rear-ended another car after failing to stop for traffic in the fast lane. Lovett had 4 minor passengers in the car. They were treated at Atlantic General Hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. 2 passengers in the other car were also transported to AGH for similar treatment. The minor passenger of the second car was flown to Johns Hopkins. Lovett was arrested after failing a sobriety test, and police say she has been charged with driving under the influence of alcohol, among other charges, in Ocean City. We're learning more about a deadly house fire yesterday afternoon in Wicomico County. You're looking at some of the damage caused by the fire in Salisbury. The Maryland State Fire Marshal says one person has died in that fire on the 300 block of Prince Street and was brought to the medical examiner's office in Baltimore to determine the cause of death. The fire marshal says the one-alarm fire began around 3:50 Saturday, and 30 firefighters brought it under control in 25 minutes. The building was a one-story home owned by RBS Properties. The fire began in a rear utility room, although a cause has yet to be determined in Salisbury. A Delaware man is facing a retrial after more than 2 decades on death row. Jermaine Wright's conviction and death sentence for a 1991 slaying were overturned after the Supreme Court determined prosecutors withheld evidence. He was released from prison last year, but before that, Wright had spent more time on death row than any other Delaware inmate. He's scheduled to appear in state superior court tomorrow in Wilmington. In Laurel, the Delaware State Police are investigating a fatal pedestrian crash that occurred late Friday night. The incident occurred around 9:22 p.m. when 45-year-old Chad Everett of Seaford was driving southbound on Sussex Highway in the right lane, approaching Chipman's Lane. A male pedestrian ran across the highway, running into Everett's car before landing on the pavement. Everett stopped after the collision. Police say the pedestrian is a man from Mexico. His identity is being withheld pending notification of his family members, but he was pronounced dead at Nanticoke Memorial Hospital. Everett, on the other hand, was uninjured. Police say alcohol may have been a factor on behalf of the pedestrian in Laurel. Also in Delaware, police are investigating a fatal crash in Milford. DSP say it happened early Saturday morning near Argos Corner when a 53-year-old Milford man was driving southbound in the northbound lane of Coastal Highway north of Brick Granary Road. At the same time, a 28-year-old Dover man was driving northbound, approaching the other car, which led him to spin and land on the grass. The second car rolled onto its roof and slid off the road. The 28-year-old driver was pronounced dead at the scene. The other driver was admitted to the hospital for life-threatening injuries. Police say alcohol may be a contributing factor on behalf of that 53-year-old driver there in Milford. Coming up in sports, Cape Henlopen started their regular football season this weekend. Plus, after a Week 1 loss, how would Wesley match up against Frostburg State in their first conference game? Crystal Rich has that and more when we return. WBOC News This Morning continues right after this.
Local news and weather, plus your chance to win part of the 50 grand giveaway. Listen to 102.5 WBOC FM. Your life, your music.
Good morning, Seaford. Here's a live look into town showing some clouds around. And that'll be the story of the morning across the region. Relief is arriving, and that humidity you feel this morning will slowly go away this afternoon. Mike talks about the work week forecast in a few minutes. But first, at 8:11 a.m., here's WBOC's Crystal Rich with sports.
Cape Henlopen may be one of the sleeper teams in the Henlopen North, looking to improve upon their 5-4 campaign last season. I can see their most challenging matchups being out of conference and, of course, the Delaware D1 state champions, Smyrna. First quarter score 7-0 Cape Henlopen. The handoff is to Kobe Wright. He runs up the middle, breaks tackles, and it's a sprint off to the end zone. He makes it there, and the Vikings now lead 14-0. Watch this punt return by Lower Cape. But it's blocked, faking out our cameras, and it's Liam Zoppler who recovers it and takes it back for the score, now 21-0. Still first quarter, Lower Cape trying to make something happen offensively, but not with Keith Mumford Reed in the backfield. He gets the pick to put the Vikings in good field position. Second quarter, now the handoff is to Benjamin Ashby. He's going to run right up the sideline for the score, and Rashid Woods would get the 2-point conversion. Cape Henlopen would take the blowout win 49-12 in week 1. A few more high school scores for you. Lake Forest was on the road in a non-conference matchup in week 1. They took a 27-12 loss on the road, and your reigning Delaware D1 state champions blew out Del Casso in their week 1 matchup on the road. The Eagles took the 56-0 win. How about some college football? Wesley hosting Frostburg State in their conference opener. Score 29-7 Wesley at the half. Dan Kasek now leading the team under center. He's going to throw it deep to left, and wideout Xavier Allen is there to make the grab. A clear path, and that's +6 for the Wolverines. It was a hot one out there today, folks. Fast forward to the 4th. Kasich airs another deep ball to right, and Sharif Jeffries makes the grab under coverage. He's still up, but the refs would rule him short. The pressure is on 4th and goal, play action, but D. Sack would keep it for the quarterback sneak, and he's in for 6. The Wolverines took their first conference win 43-7. Let's take it to DSU hosting Monmouth on Hall of Fame Day. First quarter, Monmouth on the goal line, but look at this amazing blocking by DSU. That ball wasn't going anywhere. That would set this up. Field goal attempt was blocked by DSU. Great job by special teams. Still first quarter, the Hawks ball. Cody Williams airs one out to left and finds Devin Phillips. The Hornets get hands on him, but he breaks free for the score. Monmouth in the lead. Second quarter, watch this. Handoff to receiver Matt Coy, and he's going to lob the ball up to Kenji Barr for the reception. Yesterday was a good football day across Delmarva. No Salisbury, though. They'll pick up play next Saturday against Montclair State at home.
By the way, Crystal wanted me to mention that Delaware State did lose to Monmouth yesterday, 34-20. Still ahead on WBOC News this morning. A great Salisbury band reunites after 4 decades for a bittersweet reunion. Charlie has their story in today's Travels coming up next. WBOC News this morning. We'll be right back. So the National Weather Service confirmed that 4 tornadoes touched down in east central Illinois on Friday. You're looking at footage of a farmhouse just destroyed by one of those twisters. Its walls just folded onto themselves as people inspect the ruins. Structures on the farm were destroyed, as well as a cemetery on the property. Damage assessment is currently being done across Champaign and Vermilion counties after those tornadoes in Illinois. Yikes. 4 tornadoes, that's a lot, right?
That's a lot. This is a pretty potent cold front that's coming through, but as it's gotten to us, it has basically fallen apart with moisture.
Oh.
So we're going to see the chance for a couple showers this morning. But besides that, the only thing that we're going to have to worry about is a few clouds as we go through the morning hours this morning. Beautiful sunset a couple nights ago. This is from Brian in Greenbackville, Virginia, over the Chincoteague Bay. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that on the Weather Facebook page. Again, if you want to see your photos on the weekend newscast, just share your photos of whatever you're doing weather-wise, getting a shot of the sky on the Weather Facebook page. You might end up seeing it here on TV. Nothing on Live Storm Tracker radar this morning. Some showers off to the north across parts of PA. There are a few more showers off to our west. This is where the cold front is this morning. And as we go through time, this cold front's going to push across the region and it'll overspread some cloud cover. Yes. Maybe a couple showers. We've always been saying the chance of seeing a shower here on Delmarva was about 20 to 30%, and we'll keep it there as we go through the morning hours this morning. We're waking up to a few extra clouds, but still some sunshine in Seaford. From the Nanticoke Health Services camera, it's 77 degrees. From our Hertrick camera in Easton, a look over the Tread Avon River showing you a mix of sun and clouds this morning. Currently it's 75 degrees. A little bit more cloud cover at the beach in Rehoboth Beach from the Boardwalk Plaza Hotel camera. You're at 76 degrees this morning. It's tough to see anything when you've got sand and salt all over the camera lens there in Ocean City. I will tell you that it is partly to mostly cloudy there and currently 77 degrees. 78 in St. Michael's, 81 now in Easton, 77 here in Salisbury, 77 at Wallops Island, and 76 in Hebron. We've got dew points that are in the 70s, so it is a very uncomfortable air mass as you wake up this morning. There are changes on the way, though. That front will clear us by about noontime. The winds will start to shift out of the northwest and usher in some much drier air across the region as we head through the afternoon hours. Now, if you're heading to M&T Bank Stadium for kickoff of the NFL season for the Ravens, they play the Bills this afternoon at 1. That game will be here on WBOC. Kickoff, again, 1 o'clock. Temperatures low to mid-80s, but that humidity will be dropping throughout the game, and the breeze will be picking up as well. Eagles at home as well. They play the Browns at the Link. First kickoff. I'm ready to say first pitch. I still think it's baseball season. It's football season. Kickoff's at 1. Kickoff temperature in Philly expected to be 81 degrees. That'll be the forecasted high on Monday with that drop in humidity around here. A beautiful day Monday, beautiful day on Tuesday. Then another front's going to sneak through on Wednesday, giving us a slight chance of a couple showers and storms with much cooler weather by late week.
Thanks, Mike. There are people who plan for the future, and then there are musicians, most of whom are more focused on the moment, we might say. What happened when a local musician was faced with serious illness is the subject of this morning's Travels with Charlie.
It was longer ago than it seems that these 3 good old boys were just boys playing in a Salisbury rock band. There's a really fine band called Buffalo.
This gentleman right here is a legend. Is Pete Maddox, and he's the one that we're holding the benefit for. He has MS.
Pete was a good friend. I was the manager for Buffalo in the 70s and took them on tour, and Pete was a very good friend.
Jim Prisbila's been so busy putting this benefit together, I had to meet him at Starbucks for an interview. Ever since he's heard his friend was in trouble, he's been busy raising money.
When Pete became ill this time and was admitted to ICU in critical condition, I called Don Hall and Tommy Burdett and said, let's put the band back together for Pete, and they said, absolutely.
If this happened to any of us, we'd be more than willing to do this for anybody in this, you know, it's
Except for Gary, we don't like Gary.
We're not much of Gary.
No.
But
A musician's life is really an outlaw's life, so musicians, like outlaws, have to stick together. On Sunday, Salisbury's very best will be giving their time to help one of their own.
He's thrilled. He is thrilled. His daughter told me a couple of weeks ago it's the first time she's heard him laugh in a long time.
I'll see you at the show. Charles Paparella, WBOC News.
If you've never been to Headquarters Live, it's in downtown Salisbury, across from the library. The show starts today at 2, and tickets are $25. WBOC News this morning continues in just a few minutes. Stick around. Block. So a woman in D.C. Is facing theft charges after, get this, stealing French fries. And guess who she stole them from? A police officer, right off of his plate. Police say the officer was eating dinner at an Italian restaurant when two women who police believe were intoxicated sat down next to him, tried to start a conversation, and reached over and took a French fry.
The officer asked her to stop several times, so when she tried to take a third fry, he arrested her. She faces theft charges at this time.
I really don't know how to respond to that. Don't know how I feel about that.
At least it wasn't like fettuccine Alfredo that she was trying to like.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a little Lady in the Tramp moment with the police officer that ends in an arrest.
At least it didn't come to that. And who arrests somebody for stealing a French fry?
He was hungry.
Apparently. Today is going to be a transition day here on Delmarva. It's a mix of sun and clouds. More clouds in the morning as this front pushes across the region. Temperatures in the low to mid 80s. The other thing you're going to notice by the afternoon hours, the humidity dropping and the breeze picking up. Beautiful day on Monday. Temperatures 70s and low 80s. Again, we start the gradual warming trend Tuesday and Wednesday. Then another front comes through Wednesday night, really knocking the humidity out of the air. We could see temperatures on Friday morning as low as the low 50s in our coolest locations, and then slowly warming back up as we head towards Saturday. Saturday mostly sunny with temperatures once again in the mid 80s.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
You got it.
We'll be right back.
More local news and weather. Listen to 102.5 WBOC FM. Coming up on WBOC News This Morning.
A decade and a half later, we still remember the tragic day our freedom was attacked, how our nation is honoring those who died on September 11th, 2001. And a fire in Salisbury yesterday leaves one man dead, how many firefighters it took to put out the blaze.
The Sunday forecast starts feeling like summer, but by the end of it, it might actually have a touch of fall. We'll discuss next.
Now, WBOC News This Morning, Delmarva's news leader.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us for WBOC News This Morning. I'm Lindsay Tuckman. It's 8:30 on Sunday, September 11th. Here's a live look into Rehoboth Beach right now, showing a quiet start in the resort town, but there is a little bit of sunshine across the region. A tale of 2 days is on the way to Delmarva, as there will be changes to the feel of the air by tonight for all those folks on the beach. Let's check in with meteorologist Mike Lichniak. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Lindsay. Yeah, we're starting things off on the warm and humid side by the evening hours. We're going to lose the humidity. There'll be a bit of a breeze, but you might be able to actually get away with opening the windows up as you head to bed tonight. Temperatures at this hour in the 70s to around 80 degrees. We've got some cloud cover around, and the front is just off to our west. That'll be pushing through as we go through the morning hours this morning. Temperatures today into the mid 80s. The breeze picks up, and the clouds will go away by the afternoon. We'll talk about your work week forecast in a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Mike. Today marks 15 years since the tragic September 11th terrorist attack that killed nearly 3,000 people. President Barack Obama is observing the somber anniversary with a moment of silence in the White House at 8:46 a.m. That's when the first of 4 hijacked airplanes slammed into the North Tower of New York's World Trade Center. Afterward, Obama will address a Pentagon memorial service. This video, of course, is from a live feed of the attack back in 2001, a day that brought Americans together.
I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
You can join us here as well at 8:46 a.m. for a moment of silence. And many of us can look back and remember exactly where we were and what we were doing on that tragic day. But many students now in high school weren't alive then, and this year they are learning about the attacks in their history class. As WBOC's Tashana Gaines reports, the students she spoke with say, although they have no memory of the attacks, it's had an overwhelming impact on their lives.
What year were you guys born?
2001. And that year, as most of us watched in horror as the World Trade Center towers collapsed, students in this 10th grade class at Salisbury Christian School were too young to know what was happening.
When I first heard about it, I was like, what's 9/11? And I asked my mom, and she said, she just told me at the time that there were some people who did some really bad things.
Kat Bounce says she first really learned about 9/11 visiting Ground Zero with her parents. She says it was an overwhelming experience.
I went around and we saw the footprints at first, the pools and stuff, and there was one thing that really hit me. It was a woman's name, and it said, and her unborn child, and that just really hit me so hard. Just because, who'd do something like that?
History teacher Rachel Marshall says she has one main goal.
I really want them to relate to the fact that the students, they are the same age as the kids who have lost their parents. For those souls that were lost on this day, these are their parents, these are that relation. So I wanted them to make that connection first, and that way they can understand where others are coming from.
On this 15th anniversary of 9/11, these students are taking time to reflect.
It makes you really, really think and be grateful, because we are alive in such a time that we can look back and not really, we don't experience it day to day like some countries do.
That was WBOC's Tashana Gaines. She says that students in that 10th grade class say one of the most important things they'll do in remembering 9/11 is preserving the importance of that day in history by promoting awareness through learning and never forgetting. In other news, in Ocean City, Maryland State Police say a Berlin woman is in custody in connection to a car crash that shut down part of Route 50 westbound yesterday afternoon. A look into Ocean City Saturday, thanks to our friends over at the Maryland Department of Transportation. Police say Renata Lovett rear-ended another car after failing to stop for traffic in the fast lane. Lovett had 4 minors in the car. They were treated at Atlantic General Hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. 2 passengers of the other car were also transported there for similar treatment. The minor passenger of the second car was flown to Johns Hopkins. Lovett was arrested after failing a sobriety test, and police say she's been charged with driving under the influence in Ocean City. We're learning more about a deadly house fire yesterday afternoon in Wicomico County. You're looking at some of the damage caused by that fire in Salisbury. Maryland State Fire Marshal says 1 person has died in the fire on the 300 block of Prince Street and was brought to the medical examiner's office in Baltimore to determine the cause of death. The fire marshal says the 1-alarm fire began around 3:50 Saturday, and 30 firefighters brought it under control in 25 minutes. The building was a 1-story home owned by RBS Properties. The fire began in a rear utility room, although a cause has not yet been determined in Salisbury. A Delaware man is facing a retrial after more than 2 decades on death row. Jermaine Wright's conviction and death sentence for a 1991 slaying were overturned after the Supreme Court determined prosecutors withheld evidence. He was released from prison last year, but before that, Wright had spent more time on death row than any other Delaware inmate. He is scheduled to appear in State Superior Court tomorrow in Wilmington. In Laurel, the Delaware State Police are investigating a fatal pedestrian crash that occurred late Friday night. The incident occurred around 9:22 p.m. when 45-year-old Chad Everett of Seaford was driving southbound on Sussex Highway in the right lane approaching Chipman's Lane. A male pedestrian then ran across the highway, running into Everett's car before landing on the pavement. Everett stopped after the collision. Police say the pedestrian is from Mexico and his identity is being withheld pending notification of family members. He was pronounced dead at Nanticoke Memorial Hospital. Everett was uninjured. Police say alcohol may have been a factor on behalf of the pedestrian in Laurel. Also in Delaware, police are investigating a fatal crash in Milford. DSP say it happened early Saturday morning near Argos Corner when a 53-year-old Milford man was driving southbound in the northbound lane of Coastal Highway north of Brick Granary Road. At the same time, a 28-year-old Dover man was driving northbound approaching the other car, which ended up leading to him spinning and landing on the grass. The second car rolled onto its roof and slid off the road. The 28-year-old driver was pronounced dead on the scene. The other driver was admitted to the hospital for life-threatening injuries, and police say alcohol may be a contributing factor on behalf of the 53-year-old driver there in Milford. Coming up on WBOC News this morning, we preview today's episode of CBS Sunday Morning featuring Demi Lovato. And 15 years later, we come together to remember the victims of September 11th. Joining our nation in a moment of silence when we return. It's 8:37. WBOC News this morning continues in just a few minutes.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Beautiful sunset a couple nights ago from Brian over in Greenbackville, Virginia. When you get so much humidity in the air and you get a lot of cloud cover, you get some spectacular views from Mother Nature. And this is the shot over the Chincoteague Bay. Thank you for taking that photo for us. And again, if you've got photos that you'd like to share with everybody else, share them to the WBOC Weather Facebook page. Your photo might end up on TV during a weekend, evening, or morning newscast like this morning. A live look at Storm Tracker radar this morning. There is some green being picked up across the midshore. That's some extracurricular activity. Not much going on here on Delmarva. Some showers off to our north across parts of Pennsylvania this morning. There are a few showers being picked up off to our west across the mountains of West Virginia. This is where the cold front is right now. And as we go through today, this cold front's going to push through at least the first half of the day. And then a nice big ridge of high pressure that's off to our west. You can see the clear skies from, let's say, Pittsburgh west to Chicago to St. Louis and all the way down into parts of Texas. That's heading in our direction, and we'll set up shop here as we head through the next couple of days. Still some sunshine peeking through the clouds at this point as we give you the live look from the Nanticoke Health Services camera in Seaford. We're currently at 78 degrees this morning. A little bit more in the way of a haze or cloud cover in Easton over the Tread Avon River as we give you the live look from our Hertrick camera there at 77 degrees. Lots of folks enjoying the boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach from the Boardwalk Plaza Hotel camera, already setting up shop in the sand, currently 77 degrees there. And like we talked about earlier in Ocean City, yes, there is some sunshine out there, but the camera lens is covered in salt and in sand. Currently 79 degrees this morning. 81 degrees right now in Stevensville. Good morning to you in Easton as well at 81 degrees. It's 78 at our live temperature gauge at Rootsburg. It's 76 in Hebron and 77 degrees in Salisbury. It is still a bit humid this morning, but notice D.C., Baltimore, up towards Fredericks, mid-60s dew points. Those are refreshing compared to where we're at right now. And as we go through time, that will continue to be the trend. Things are going to stay humid early, then it'll start to drop off as we go through the afternoon. That's as this front pushes through. Again, we're going to keep the chance of a shower in the forecast through about lunchtime. Then the front clears us. The winds switch northwest. It becomes breezy late afternoon into the evening hours. But one thing is for certain, the humidity drops. And that sets up for a beautiful next couple of days here on the peninsula. If you're heading over to M&T Bank Stadium, Ravens playing the Bills opening day of the NFL season, kickoff at 1. Temperature there going to be 83 degrees, in the mid-80s for the most part. And if you can't make it there, keep it right here. That game will be on WBOC. If you're heading to the Link in Philly, Eagles playing the Browns, temperatures at game time 81 degrees. If you're heading to the beach this afternoon, temperatures into the low to mid-80s. Again, the humidity will drop with time. The cloud cover will go away with time. The UV index on the high side. Water temperatures in the mid-70s. Again, stray shower in the forecast through about lunchtime, and then things will start to clear on out. Temperatures as we go through the afternoon hours in the mid-80s. Low 80s Monday. Most of us actually in the upper 70s tomorrow with a breeze from the water. Another chance for a couple showers and storms on Wednesday before more fall-like weather late week.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. Singer Demi Lovato is one of the hottest pop stars on the planet. But as CBS Sunday Morning's Tracy Smith tells us, Lovato's traveled a rocky road to success. Here's a preview.
That's me. Whoa. She was a working actress at age 10, co-starring with a purple dinosaur. I love you. You love me. Even then, she dreamed and prayed she'd one day get the chance to really sing.
It sounds ridiculous, but like I kind of made a pact with God. And I don't think you're even supposed to do that, but I was like, I promise if you make me a singer, one day I'm going to use my voice for so much more than singing, and I'm gonna help people with it.
And you've held up your end of the bargain.
I've held up my end of the bargain, I still do.
And God's held up his.
And God held up his. He was like, you don't realize what you're asking for, but here you go.
This is real, this is me. This was the answer to that prayer. The lead role in a hit Disney Channel movie, Camp Rock. Within weeks, Demi Lovato went from child actor to teen superstar. She says the sudden fame did a number on her body and soul. Off camera, she battled bulimia, depression, substance abuse, and at age 18 made the first of several trips to rehab.
Were you a model patient?
No, no. I don't think there is such thing as a model patient in rehab. Yeah, at one point while I was in treatment, I was continuing to use drugs and drink because I couldn't function without it.
Demi Lovato in the fight of her life, plus a museum dedicated to the African American experience, and talk show host Wendy Williams tells all. That's on this Sunday morning right here on WBOC at 9 a.m. And now, as we talked about earlier, today marks 15 years since our country suffered its deadliest foreign attack on U.S. soil. September 11th, 2001 was the day 2,977 people perished. It was also the day America changed, and it was one moment that did that. The moment a plane struck the first tower of the World Trade Center, the moment our freedom was attacked. It was at 8:46 a.m. that America changed, and so did all of our lives. So please join me now as we go live to a ceremony at One World Trade Center in New York City for a moment of silence as we remember those who died and as we promise to never forget. We'll be right back.
Rattling.
What? They were doing live shots, but we can't do that without a producer. It's 8:48 on WBOC News this morning. Here's a look at today's top stories. Today marks 15 years since the tragic September 11th terrorist attacks in New York City. President Obama observed the anniversary with a moment of silence in the White House before addressing a Pentagon memorial service. Nearly 3,000 people were killed in New York, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon when al-Qaeda terrorists crashed the airplanes in those locations. U.S. forces killed al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden nearly a decade later during a May 2011 raid that Obama authorized on his Pakistani hideout. Many of us can look back and remember exactly where we were and what we were doing the day of the September 11th terror attacks. But for today's high school students, it was an event truly never experienced. This year marks the first year high school freshmen will be learning about 9/11 as a historical event. Most were not even born or just too young to remember. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are planning to mark the 15th anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks by attending the official commemoration at Ground Zero today. It's not clear whether the two will cross paths at the World Trade Center site, and neither candidate is expected to make public remarks. Trump, a native New Yorker, and Clinton, who was senator from New York at the time of the attacks, have agreed to refrain from campaigning today, continuing the tradition of setting aside partisan politics on this somber anniversary. In Ocean City, Maryland State Police say a Berlin woman is in custody in connection to a crash that shut down part of Route 50 westbound yesterday afternoon. Police say Renata Levitt rear-ended another car after failing to stop for traffic in the fast lane. Levitt was arrested after failing a sobriety test. Police say she has been charged with driving under the influence of alcohol, among other charges in Ocean City. One person died in a house fire yesterday on Prince Street in Salisbury. The fire marshal says it took 30 firefighters 25 minutes to control the one-alarm fire. No word yet on what caused the blaze. The victim was taken to the medical examiner's office in Baltimore to determine a cause of death after this fire in Salisbury. A Delaware man is facing a retrial after more than 2 decades on death row. Jermaine Wright's conviction and death sentence for a 1991 slaying were overturned after the Supreme Court determined prosecutors withheld evidence. He was released from prison last year, but before that, Wright had spent more time on death row than any other Delaware inmate. He's scheduled to appear in State Superior Court tomorrow in Wilmington. Delaware State Police are investigating a fatal pedestrian crash Friday night in Laurel on Sussex Highway. Police say a male pedestrian from Mexico was hit after running across the highway. The victim's identity is being withheld at the moment, but police say he may have been intoxicated in Laurel. Also in Delaware, police are investigating a fatal crash in Milford early Saturday morning near Argos Corner when a 53-year-old Milford man was driving southbound in the northbound lane of Coastal Highway. At the same time, a 28-year-old Dover man was driving northbound and he ended up flipping off the road and was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say alcohol may be a contributing factor on behalf of the 53-year-old driver there in Milford. Finally, the man who tried to assassinate President Ronald Reagan is settling into a lifestyle of new freedoms today after his release from a Washington, D.C. mental hospital more than 35 years after the shooting. John Hinckley Jr. headed for his mother's house in Williamsburg, Virginia yesterday. He'll still have to meet certain conditions to remain free. Those are today's top stories to start your Sunday morning off right. A look at today's forecast is just ahead. It's 8:51 on WBOC News this morning. Making headlines this morning, Hillary Clinton pulled back from a comment she made Friday night about Donald Trump's supporters. Trump says her remarks may cost her votes. Wendy Gillette reports.
Hillary Clinton says she regrets remarks she made about Donald Trump supporters at a fundraiser Friday night.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Clinton released a statement Saturday that says, quote, "Last night I was grossly generalistic, and that's never a good idea. I regret saying half. That was wrong." She added that many of Trump's supporters are hardworking Americans. Trump tweeted, "Wow, Hillary Clinton was so insulting to my supporters. Millions of amazing, hardworking people. I think it will cost her at the polls." The Republican National Committee said Clinton's comment showed her condescension and disrespect. Clinton held one private fundraiser just outside New York City Saturday. About 15 people paid at least $100,000 each to attend. Clinton will be here in Manhattan Sunday to mark the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Trump spent a somber Saturday at the funeral of friend and supporter Phyllis Schlafly in St. Louis. The 92-year-old died Monday. She was a conservative activist, lawyer, and author who opposed communism, abortion, and the Equal Rights Amendment over the course of her life.
Phyllis was there for me when it was not at all fashionable. Trust me.
Trump has no other scheduled public events until Monday. Wendy Gillette for CBS News, New York.
Trump's running mate Mike Pence said yesterday that Trump supporters are not a basket of anything and deserve Clinton's respect. At the World Trade Center site in New York, 15 years later, work is still years away from being completely finished. Construction on 3 World Trade continues just below of 1 World Trade, which is now the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. The building's developer spoke on when he thinks the entire site will be finished.
How many more years before you think this whole thing could finally be finished?
I think by 2021, 2022, we're done.
And you're going to see it all?
Well, I'm 85 years of age. At that point, I'll be 90 or 91. And so hopefully, if I'm still around.
You've got more energy for the both of us.
Buildings 1, 4, and 7 are complete. Building 2 has not gotten off the ground. Building 3 is expected to open for business in 2018. All right, Mike, why don't we give the viewers a little roundup of what to expect for this Sunday and for the rest of the week.
Today is going to be a tale of 2 days. We're starting off very humid across the region. It is very warm out there. It doesn't feel like football weather, but by the afternoon with that breeze kicking up, some of us might think it's just about time. 79 in Salisbury, also in Ocean City. 81 Easton and Stevensville, and it's 78. Our live temperature gauge at Rootsburg. Again, very humid out there this morning with dew points in the 70s, but you can see the lower humidity to our north and west as that cold front approaches us. We're going to keep the chance of a couple stray showers in the forecast as we head through the afternoon hour or through about lunchtime. Then as we get into the afternoon, that's when things will start to improve. We've got football games around the region. First of all, Ravens playing the Bills at 1 o'clock on WBOC. Beautiful weather at kickoff, 83 degrees, and the Eagles are also at home. Kickoff temperature at 1 o'clock is expected to be about 81 degrees. That's the forecasted high on Monday. A bit more warm weather Tuesday, Wednesday before another touch of fall by Thursday.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
You got it.
And thank you for joining us for WBOC News this morning. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can get it now on WBOC.com.
CBS's Sunday Morning is next. We'll see you back here for the news at 6.